Good morning. It's May 17th, 2016, 10:57 a.m. This is Lisa Woodson, and I'm going to go over some code. So I've got a folder here called testing, and when you open it up, there are three files that I want to go over. I have demo21.html, so that is hypertext markup link, that's web browser web page code. Then I have an external JavaScript that's called 21.js that has three different functions inside. Then I have an external cascading style sheet, which is called style.css. And we have a bunch of tags here, tags for body, tags for special IDs for elements, special tags that I created myself, styles for buttons. Here's some more special IDs that I use to style the buttons. And then here is another tag that I created to actually nest all of my code. So all of those things have styles. And I'll get to that, but let's get to the regular HTML code first. And when you open it up in the browser, this is what it looks like. We have three sections here. So starting at the top of the code, we have our doc type, HTML, opening HTML tag, and our pair of head tags. The first thing I have in my head tag is a link to this smile.ico file that has this little smiley up here in the browser's tab. The next thing I have here is a title that shows up right next to that icon, Demo21-May 17th, 2016. The next link I have is going to link that external style sheet right here. And the last link I have in the head is going to link my script, my external JavaScript, which is going to link this. That gives us our action. Okay, so that's the end of the head and the beginning of the body. Now that we're in the body, you're going to see those elements that you can see in the web page. I start off with this tag called wrapper, and if we go to the style CSS, right here it's wrapper. This is the style that wrapper got. Margin of 0 pixels, padding of 10 pixels, width of 99%, float left, and minimum width of 600 pixels. That way, if I minimize this window very narrow, it will not go so narrow that these different buttons and that these little sections that I have will not flow one underneath each other. I want them to stay in a line from left to right. After wrapper, I have a section called left, a section called middle, and a section called right. In the left section, if we look at the style again, we see left, comma, middle, comma, right. Those are indicating the tags that I created, and here is the styles for all of those tags. Border 10 pixels, black outset. You can see here it doesn't really look black, it's actually coming out more like gray. So each one of these sections has a gray border, and they're an outset border. It gives the illusion of being outset. Width of 30%, so that as this page stretches and contracts, each of these blocks will be about 30% wide of the page. Padding is 0 pixels, margin is 0 pixels, float is set to the left, and text align is to the center. That's why when you see Demo 1 find and replace, Demo 2 lower or upper, and Demo 3 array combos, and the paragraph is, I believe, also centered. All of this is being, the text is being centered. All right, let's go back here. Now in this particular left section, we've got a button with an ID of G. Now if I go to the ID of G right here, that means that that button has this set of styles. Background color, this letter number combination is a type of green, and then it's got a border of 5 pixels green outset. That's this button right here. If I go back here, that button also has an onClick event that is calling the find and replace function. So if I go to my 21.js JavaScript file, you'll see we have a function called find and replace. But I'm going to get to the functions last. I'm just showing you how each three of these separate files correlate with each other. Okay, so then on the face of the button, you have Demo 1, a break tag to go down a line, and then find/replace. So Demo 1, down to the next line, find/replace. There's the end of the button, and there is a break tag, which I'm really not sure that I even need this break tag. I'm going to actually take these break tags out and see if there's really a difference in how this looks. and it didn't do a single thing, so that's fine. I didn't need that tag. So after the end of the button, we have a paragraph tag. The paragraph has an ID of DMOZ. It was demo 1 in a previous tutorial, but now I added a Z there so that it has more exclusive names. DMOZ 1. Your text will appear here. So where you see this, your text will appear here. That's where the paragraph tag is in there. Now the ID of DMOZ 1, if I go to my style, I have demo 1, I have demo 2 and demo 3, and here I have demo 1, comma demo 2, comma demo 3. Well, the last video that I did, I actually used CSS to make this area down here. I was using a span tag with these IDs. Span tag had demo 1, this span tag had demo 2, and this span tag had demo 3. So at one point they had styles that they shared, and then they also had exclusive styles all their own. They were also set to be invisible when the page first loaded, because the CSS gave it this display of none. Well, recall I just told you that I did not name any of these demo. I named them DMOZ. So they're showing. So all of these styles are basically being ignored in this particular video because I'm not using the words as they're spelled here. I changed it. So basically all of these styles and all the exclusive, all of this is being ignored by the browser right now because I did it slightly different. Okay, but on the other hand, DMOZ, these IDs do have a function. Just because I'm not styling them with CSS doesn't mean there's no function with them. When you go to the external JavaScript, which is creating our action, we do use DMOZ1 for the first function, document.getElementById DMOZ1.innerHTML equals text. We do use DMOZ2. The second section is using this function lower or upper, and document.getElementById DMOZ2.innerHTML equals name to check toUpperCase, and there's DMOZ2 again. And then in the final function, which we're going to deal with this purple section, we have DMOZ3. Document.getElementById DMOZ3.innerHTML there are, and blah 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 blah. So I'll go over the functions more fully, but those are two different things that you can do with an ID. You could use the ID for your functionality in JavaScript, and you can use your ID to style it with cascading style sheets in your external style sheet. Okay, so then there is the end of the left section. So I've done the button and the P tag for the green area. In the middle, button ID equals B. So if we go to the style and look for ID B, that button gets this background color of pound 4470B5 and a border of 5 pixels of blue outset. Its onClick event is calling that lower or upper function. So if we go to the JavaScript, you see function lower or upper. So when we click this blue button, it's going to do all of that. It's going to do all of that function right there. Function lower or upper. And the words that you see on the face of the button are right there. Demo 2, break down to the next line, lower or upper, end of button tag. Here's the P with an ID of DMOZ2. Again, if we look at our function, it's dealing with DMOZ2, which means that the text that's changing is going to go right in this section right here. This is DMOZ2. This is P ID DMOZ2. This in here is P ID DMOZ1, and this in this third one is P ID DMOZ3. But we're not on the third one yet. All right, your text will appear here, and P tag and middle. Then we've got the right section and button with an ID of P. Go to the style. You can see that here's the ID of P. Background color pound 8E40B6, border 5 pixels purple outset. OnClick equals combos. So the function is called combos, function combos. And that takes us to the end of the JavaScript page. Then you got p id equals dmos3. Go back to that function again, that last function, and you can see where dmos3 is being pointed to or referred to in that function. All right, and your text will appear here inside that p tag. It's right here. End of the right section, end of the wrapper, end of the body, end of the HTML. All right, so let me gloss over the entire style quickly. For the whole body, we have a margin of 0 pixels, auto padding 0 pixels. Again, I'm not using any of these styles. I might use them in the future, but for this particular web page, it's not using that. The left, middle, and right are sections with the gray borders all the way around. Border 10 pixels, black outset, width 30%, padding 0 pixels, margin 0 pixels, float left, and text align center. All three of the buttons share the same width 100%, margin 0 pixels, padding 5 pixels, font size 20 pixels, font family Rockwell extra bold. Pound G, pound B, and pound P mean IDG, IDB, and IDP, and all of those are styling our buttons again. And the wrapper is finally the tags that contain everything. Margin of 0 pixels, padding of 10 pixels, width of 99%, float left, minimum width 600 pixels. Okay, so we're done with the style CSS. The last thing we have to do is to actually go over our functions. So for our first green button right here, it calls the function find and replace. Var text equals prompt, enter text. What happens is when you click this, we get this pop-up here that says enter text. Whatever I type in here is going that value. So if I say a big toy, that is going to go into this value's text. So everywhere you see the variable text, you're going to see the computer is going to memorize the words a space big space toy. The next thing that's going to happen is text dot to lowercase. Everywhere that I put a capital, which is only the letter A for this point, it's going to change all of this to lowercase, and then put all of that back into the variable text. So now this time text is going to have the words a big toy, but A is going to be in lowercase. Then you have a loop here. For var I equals 0, as long as I is less than text.length I++, which means increment I up 1. Then you have this if condition, if text.slice I comma I plus 22. Now the code was done with without the words a big toy in here. Since I typed in a big toy, I want to actually change that. I want to change a big toy to something else. Now I have to count characters here because we're dealing with characters. So every letter and every space is considered a character. And if I put numbers in here that were considered strings, I'd have to count those too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 characters. So I'm going to change this 22 to 9 and this 22 to 9, because what I had there before was actually 22 characters. Then I have text equals text.slice 0 comma I plus, now what am I going to change a big toy to? I want to change it to something ridiculous. A monkey and a lion. Okay, so now everywhere that I type a big toy, it's going to change into a monkey and a lion. In double quotes, plus text.slice I plus 9. Again, the 9 has to be whatever you're digging out of here, whatever you're slicing out of here, including the spaces. That's what that 9 indicates. So there's the end of that if and the end of this for loop. Now we have document.getElementById and dmos1 Remember, that's the paragraph with this ID. It's going to be right in here. Dot inner HTML is going to be the value of text. Whatever the value of text is going to go in here. It's going to replace, your text will appear here with something else. Now let me hit save here. And I may have to rerun this, but I'm going to hit OK. A big toy didn't do anything. Let me hit refresh and hit my button again. A big toy. Okay. See how it changed into a monkey and a lion? See, because this wasn't saved first before I ran this, so I had to refresh this again. So if I hit this green button again, and I say, the little boy wished for a big toy. And then I can capitalize. A big toy is waiting in the closet. Now I'm going to hit OK there, and you can see how it changed. A little boy wished for a monkey and a lion. A monkey and a lion is waiting in the closet. So we were able to, with a for loop and an if statement using the slice and counting characters, we were able to take a section out, find a section, replace it with something totally different. So that was kind of fun. One thing about this text equals text dot to lowercase, if I comment that out, let's hit refresh and let me run this, hit refresh the page and let me run this again. I'm going to do another couple sentences with a big toy. I'm going to say a big toy in capitals. A big toy is always nice on your birthday. So that's all in capitals. They all got a big toy from Grandma. So there's two, one in caps and one not. Now I'm going to hit OK. Now look, a big toy, because it was capitalized, was compared to this, a big toy. And because JavaScript is case sensitive, a big toy in capitals is not the same as a big toy in lowercase. So it didn't change this a big toy. A big toy is always nice on your birthday. But the other sentence had lowercase, so it did in fact match. They all got a monkey and a lion from Grandma. So it changed that. So that's why this statement right here is important, because if you're trying to find text out of a paragraph or out of a long lines of code, you want to make sure that you first convert it to lowercase and then save it in your variable. You know, first you can put it in a variable with the prompt if that's what you want to use, or however you want to use it to put the massive amounts of text in your variable, but then make sure you change it to lowercase so that it matches whatever you have in parentheses here. Now, we created this code in lowercase. If this were all in uppercase, then you would want to have this text equals text dot to uppercase. So wherever your comparison is in the code, however you did it, if you did it in lowercase, then the input is what you need to check and change so that it matches. So if I take this and take the comment off so that this statement is back in the loop, well, it's not actually in a loop, but if it's back in the code for the browser to read, let me highlight this so I don't have to type it again. Right click and copy, then hit refresh, hit my button, right click and put it in there, and hit OK. Now it in fact, even though it was still capitalized, it changed it. A monkey and a lion is always nice on your birthday. They all got a monkey and a lion from Grandma. Okay, so that's the nitty-gritty of that function. Let's move on to the next one. This function is called function lower or upper. We have var name to check equals prompt name please. So if I click this, you'll see the prompt that says name please. And again, we're also going to change it to lowercase. So no matter what crazy something the person puts in, whether they put all caps, one cap, no caps, it's going to convert it to lowercase. That way, when we do a comparison, we're comparing lowercase to lowercase. So if I hit OK, even though I didn't spell it all with little letters, we did get Lisa is on the list. They found that to be a match. They found that to be a match because Lisa was one of the elements in an array created and called name list. Okay, so that's the next line we're going to go over. After we took name to check and changed it to lowercase and put it back in the variable name to check, we create an array. Var name list equals Lisa, Bob, Jerry, and Amanda. And they're all in lowercase. They're all separated by commas and double quotes. Here we are creating a flag, a Boolean flag. Boolean means true or false. And when it's false, if you want to use it like a switch, you switch it to true and then make your code revolve around whether this is true or false. So it's a condition. Var matching equals false. So the variable name is matching, its value is Boolean false in the beginning. Then we have a for loop. For var I equals 0, as long as I is less than name list.length, increment I. Name list dot length, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 names in there. So that's going to be name list index 0, name list index 1, name list index 2, and name list index 3. So it's going to have indexes 0 to 3, a total of 4 elements in that array. So instead of messing around with counting, we can just take the name of the array and the dot length, and that the code will automatically do this in the correct fashion. So provided we've got that going on, we're going to go inside and we have an if condition. If name to check is the same as name list I. Now since this is a loop, name list I is going to, first it's going to be 0, then it's going to go up here, then it's going to be 1, then it's going to go up here, it's going to be 2, it's going to go up here, it's going to be 3. So it's checking with each loop. It's checking the comparison of these elements to whatever Joe Blow Schmo types in this name please prompt. So if you get a match, doesn't matter if it's the first one or the last one or one in between, if you get a match and that's true, then you're going to take that Boolean flag and you're going to set it to true. So now you've just flipped the switch. It started off being false, now you flipped it to true. Now you're going to take your document.getElementById demos2, which is this area right here, .innerHTML equals name to check toUpperCase. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever the user typed in here, and for our output, which is going to show up in here in this paragraph, we're going to change it to all uppercase. That's why you see Lisa's on the list. Lisa's all in uppercase because of this .toUpperCase. That's what did that. And then we're going to add or concatenate the rest of this string is on the list. Now, we use the break tag because if the first thing that's typed happens to be a match, then you don't want this to keep looping. Let's say you had 3,000 names here and the first name matched. You don't want the computer to keep cycling through and looping through and wasting computing cycles. You want, as soon as the match is found, to break out of the loop. And that's what that statement, just the word break with semicolon, does. So you don't waste more looping computing cycles after a match is found. Otherwise, let's say you had 3,000 names and maybe on name 1,000 you happen to match whatever the person typed in here with whatever the name is in this particular array. It's just going to keep looping until it finds a match. And if it never finds a match, like for instance, we've only got 4 here. And if I type in Dave, well, Dave is not part of this name list. If I click OK, I get Dave is not on the list. Well, this is how we do that. After it loops until it loops the last element of the array, and it's going to go here to this if. And it's going to say if matching, that's that Boolean flag, is equal to false. Well, we started it off as false in the beginning. So if this for loop if condition never becomes true, then matching is not going to be flipped to true. It's not going to be changed to true. It is going to be false. So that makes this condition true. And when conditions are true, then you follow what's in those curly braces. Document.getElementById, demos2, inner HTML equals name to check dot toUpperCase plus concatenate the string is not on the list. End if end function. So that basically lets you know how to create an array with names of colors, of sizes, of types, of styles, of cars, of whatever you want to make your list. And then you want to have the user either guess, or you want to have the user put something in and you're looking for a match. So it could be kind of a game, if you will. And if you find the match, then you're going to do whatever's inside here. And if you don't find a match, you're going to do whatever's put in here. So now let's go to the last one, this purple one when you click. This function is called combos. We're going to create two arrays. Var f names equals Betty, Wilma, Fred, Barney, Jacob, and Ted. Then we're going to create another array. Var last names, or var L names, equals Wilson, Simpson, Smith, Jones, and Johnson. Note the number of first names, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Note the number of last names, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 times 5 is 30. So we should be able to get 30 first name, last name combinations based on these two arrays that are put together. We're going to create a third array, var full names equals, and we have nothing set in there, so it's an empty array. We're going to do a for loop. We're going to do more than one for loop, as a matter of fact. The first for loop is var I equals 0 as long as I is less than f names dot length, then increment I. Then right directly inside that loop we have for var j equals 0 as long as j is less than l names dot length, then increment j. So because I starts off at 0 in the loop, I is going to be 0, which is going to be this Betty. And then j for last name's length is going to be Wilson. So the 0 index of f names will be Betty, and the 0 index of l names will be Wilson. So the very first combination that you get will be Betty Wilson, and that will go inside. That will be the first element for this array full names. You cannot use the same because we're using multiple for loops here. You have to have different counter variables. So this one, talking about f names, is going to use I. This one is going to give a different letter, so we're going to go with the next letter in the alphabet, which is J, and that's going to refer to the index for L names. And then inside of that we have full names dot push. Now push is going to add stuff into, add elements into this empty full names array. So full names dot push f names I, which is going to start off at 0, then it's going to loop, it's going to be 1, then it's going to loop, it's going to be 2, it's going to loop, it's going to be 3, and so on and so forth, plus L names j. Well, j is going to start off at 0, then it's going to go 1, then it's going to go 2, then it's going to go 3, then it's going to go 4. Actually, it's going to go to 3. No, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to go to L names with the highest index being 4. Okay, so we are, again, creating one array, creating another array, creating a third array that's going to take a combination of one part and another part until we get all of these names. The next thing I'm going to do is create a variable with nothing in it, another empty string, var text equals, and then you've got the empty double quotes. We have a third and final for loop, and we're creating again another name for the counter. So var k equals 0 as long as k is less than full names dot length. Now we're actually going to deal with the full names array because these two for loops filled this array up. So now we can iterate through the elements in full names. So I am taking text, which I started off with nothing in it, and I have plus equals because it's going to take the full names k, the first index, which will be full names index 0, and then it's going to add a break tag, which means it's going to go down a line. Because in this first iteration of the loop, it's going to do that. Then it's going to take document.getElementById, and this is demos 3, which is going to be this section right up here, this paragraph with the ID of demos 3, dot inner HTML. So now we're going to change this text to something else. The words there are plus full names dot length. So we're going to see how many names we're going to get out of doing this, plus the words full name combinations from two arrays. I told you it'll be 30 because 5 times 6 is 30. Two break tags means that we go down 2 lines, and then plus text. So in the first loop, we get the first full name. Then it goes up here, and the second loop, we're going to get another line that says the same thing, but it's going to give us the second first last name combination. So it's going to keep on doing that until the entire array called full names lets us know all of the elements. It's going to name all the elements, then it's going to be done. Then you're going to have your end of your for and your end of your function. So let's do it. Let's click it. And there are 30 full name combinations from 2 arrays. And notice how it's the output is. Betty Wilson's the first one. Betty, and then Wilson. Then Betty gets another last name. Betty Simpson. Then you get Betty Smith. Betty Smith. Then you get Betty Jones. Betty Jones. And finally you get Betty Johnson. Betty Johnson. So you can see the way it works. This outer loop, the index is 0. While the index is 0, it's going to go in here and do all of the last names and then push them into full names. Then it's going to start all over, and I is going to be 1. When I is 1, then it's going to do the same thing for Wilma. The outer loop is going to be Wilma, and then it's going to go to the inner loop, and it's going to go through everything in the inner loop, all of the last names. So you can see Wilma goes from here to here, Wilma with all the different last names. Then it comes back to the outer loop again, and at this time the outer loop is going to go from 0 to 1 to 2. So now you're talking about Fred, F names with an index of 2, and then the inner loop is going to give him all the possible combinations with all the different last names. So we have Fred, 5 different Freds, 5 different Barneys. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different Jacobs and 5 different Teds with 6 different first names. So I've showed you 3 different demos. I used a similar display as the last video. I just didn't deal with making the output disappear and reappear, which I thought was a nice enough feature, but it wasn't necessary. The code works just as fine without. Of course, if you hit OK here, like if you don't enter anything and hit OK, you notice how this kind of just shrunk with nothing in it. That I don't really like how that looks. That looks like something faulty. And the same thing with this. If you don't click anything, you get is not on the list because you have a blank space here. Nobody bothered to type anything. So I really don't like how that looks either. And if you click this, well, the user doesn't do anything. This is just outputting information based on the code.